All right, everyone, this is it. We are at the grand finale, and this one right over here, oh, this one. Now, normally, this would not be something that I would go and talk about, but considering the viral nature of it, how it became like a massive highlight of 2022 internet culture, it's just something that I just need to go and discuss, especially with the updated events of how it's going. Like, I'll say, like, I'll be repeating this, but this is a situation that it went from being ridiculously comical to tragically frightening. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, then may I present to you what could possibly be the worst take on Turning Red. So let's play this.
This film takes place less than a year after the September 11th terrorist attacks. I bring this up because it radically altered the culture of the time, in ways that make this movie feel exceptionally ignorant of the time. Even though, literally, the only reason I can comprehend that this movie is set explicitly in 2002 is because the director grew up in that exact year. Yes, this film takes place in Canada, not the United States, but all over the Western world. Canada, America, the UK, much of Europe. People were paranoid because 9/11 wasn't the only terror attack that had happened. It was the major theme of the decade. I mean, I can understand not wanting everyone to be so fearful, as that goes against the tone that the movie is trying to establish. But then you have very awkward moments if you actually were there and you do actually remember the time period. This film takes place less than a year.
Yes, folks! That little clip actually comes from the review done by none other than the mysterious Mr. Enter. And this was a take that was shared primarily on Twitter, and the original tweet that did share this, it went viral. Where as I am recording this right now, that clip that you have seen has gathered so far over 8.2 million views, and the tweet itself has collected a total of over 13.5 thousand retweets and quote tweets and over 85,000 likes. 9/11, eh? Let me ask you people, have you ever watched an animated movie? You know, you seem comfortable with it, you seem fine, but you're often a little bit disturbed. You feel like there's just something wrong, that there's something that is obviously missing in your animated film. Have you ever just sit back and you wonder to yourself, you know what this cartoon is missing? 9/11. We need more 9/11 in this family-friendly animated feature. Oh boy. And I will say, like, I know some people might say, like, oh, well, this thing right here is just taken out of context and stuff like that. Yeah, but I'm just going to tell you right now that the review itself, it's really no better. Like, it is equally as cringy as the clip that you have seen here. In fact, like, the entire point that Mr. Enter is literally trying to make with his thoughts on Turning Red by, in which he calls it a mixed bag, by the way, he actually did go in like the satirically hilarious, like in the satirically stupid take of how the cartoons that he grew up with are much better than something like this that is released right now. Like, he's going in that old shtick right over there. And one thing I need to say, like, especially with the comment of the fact that there is no 9/11 reference on Turning Red because of the fact that it is released in 2002, I'm just there like, really? Like, among all the takes out there, your biggest problem is the fact that there's no 9/11 in Turning Red? Like, honestly, there might be some people that might say, like, they could see how, like, what he's going with it because of the whole aspect that it is set in 2002. But no, like, in truth, it just makes no sense whatsoever. Why would there be 9/11 in a Pixar animated film like this? It just makes no sense. Like, you know, you claim that others don't seem to comprehend the time that this movie is set in, but I need to ask you, do you? do you know, like, do you understand, like, how it is, like, to be a kid back during that time, like, in the beginning of the 2000s decade? Because clearly with this, you don't seem to have a comprehension. Because it really does feel like he's trying to make a point that sounds like it's smart, but it really doesn't, and he's literally saying nothing about it. It's like he's trying to force a negative opinion towards the movie when he doesn't have one in particular. It's almost like he's making something up on the fly. And it's kind of funny because you'd think you have already heard the worst of the worst when it comes to the takes against Turning Red. Like, we all know those infamous takes from anti-woke people in which they pretty much commented against how there's so much diversity on it, and especially with the fact that it does star an Asian woman, and also the fact that it does discuss about puberty and all that kind of idiotic stuff. In fact, like, we probably do remember the infamous Cinema Blend review in which the guy says that he's incapable of relating with what's going on in the film because of the fact that the movie stars teenage girls and the fact that the protagonist is an Asian teenage girl. Now, that dude got a whole lot of flack, but somehow Mr. Enter found a way to make this so much worse. Like, he really had a hold my beer moment and decided, you know what? Let's go with 9/11. Why not bring in 9/11 in this whole discussion when no one else has ever brought up 9/11 in regards to Turning Red? Like, I'm just warning you right now, folks, whatever you do, do not, and I repeat, do not mention to Mr. Enter that the Incredibles movies are actually set in the 1960s. Because if you do, he's going to flip his lid and be like, what? What do you mean? Hold on a sec. What do you mean that the Incredibles are based on the 1960s? If they are set in the 1960s, why did nobody talk about the JFK assassination? Shouldn't we have a moment where Mr. Incredible or Helen Parr are reacting to the horrible events of the JFK assassination? Shouldn't they be talking about how their society has been massively affected by JFK's death? Why couldn't they do that? And don't even get me started on Frozone. Why is Frozone not talking about the civil rights movement? Or why does he not have a 10-minute dialogue about Martin Luther King Jr.? The fact that he is a black man in the 1960s is already an issue right over there. That is why the Incredibles movies are a massive mixed bag. Oh boy, and especially with this right over here. Like, even though, like, just this tweet alone already explains so much that the entire, like, whatever thoughts that Mr. Enter may have on Turning Red, like, it's already shot down, and the arguments that he may have against it's already defeated. And by the way, shout out to Coco Fox 023 for making this tweet, for, like, discovering this clip and just really making it viral for the internet to take notice on this. And one thing that I do want to go and clarify, by the way, like, whatever opinion Mr. Enter may have on Turning Red, that's perfectly fine. Like, I'm not bashing him because I like Turning Red and he doesn't, so I'm making fun of him. I'm not doing that at all. If he doesn't like Turning Red, if he thought that it's a mixed bag, that's perfectly okay. It's just his explanation to the flaws, like his takes on why there are some problems with Turning Red in the first place. That is the thing that me and the entire internet is just making fun of, and that it is absolutely ridiculous. And also, the factor of the whole 9/11 thing, it really does make no sense, and it really is unnecessary to go and talk about, because let me go and explain you this. I am a kid that actually did grow up in the 9/11 time. Like I was around, like, I will say that I was around 8. I was going to be 9 years old when 9/11 actually did happen. And on top of that, I am a Canadian, just like May. So I do have that bonus as well. And one thing that I could tell you, yes, like, even in Canada, the events of 9/11 was indeed shocking. it was in fact pretty shocking for both me and my family. I remember that we were like, me and my family were actually quite concerned about the events, mainly because I actually had an uncle that worked in New York City. And keep in mind, like, his offices were actually very far from the World Trade Center, but we were still massively concerned because when we heard that there was this terrorist attack that did happen in New York City, our minds immediately go to, oh crap, is our uncle okay? So that was like a high, like, is my uncle okay? So that was like a high priority that we had. But then following afterwards, going from 2002 onward, like, as a kid, 9/11 like was not in my mind all the time. Like, yeah, when we would talk about like travel and going on vacations, like I remember like on March of 2002, we actually went on a trip to Disney World, and yeah, like the 9/11 was a little bit of a factor and a little bit of a worry, but it didn't stop us from actually going to Disney World. And as a kid, like, I wasn't always thinking about 9/11 or noticing all the different things that like happen all like around me because of 9/11. Like, I was a kid. I was still thinking about stuff like Pokemon and Digimon and schoolwork and stuff like that. Even for kids who would become teenagers, like even for like 12 and 13-year-olds at that time, they wouldn't always be thinking about 9/11. They would be thinking about like what they present here in Turning Red. They would think about boys. They would think about like bands. They would think about music. They would think about schoolwork and all that kind of stuff. Like, we were still able to move on with our lives even if 9/11 actually did happen. Like, we're not constantly, like, we were not in a position where we would constantly live in fear and always like be worried about like what would be the next terrorist attack and stuff like that, because for us, we would just go and continue our lives and do what we can, like, and mainly because of the fact that we are kids. And in the case of Turning Red, this whole movie is from the perspective of Mei Lee. This is technically her movie. And so we are seeing all this from her perspective. And with Mei Lee, like, maybe in the film, like, she was aware and like her whole family was aware that 9/11 did happen. But the thing is that the movie is structured in a way that 9/11 is not necessarily needed, because this is not a movie that discusses about terrorist attacks. This is not a movie that discusses about things like 9/11. This is not a movie about immigration. Like, none of the themes that correlate to 9/11 correlate to Turning Red. So there's no need to go and discuss about 9/11, because this is about Mei Lee. This is about her turning into a giant fluffy red panda that is symbolism for puberty. The thing is with Turning Red is that this movie actually has more of a priority to discuss about other subjects than 9/11. And that's the big reason why the 9/11 take is objectively bad and that it doesn't work, because the movie is not about 9/11. There's no need to bring up 9/11. And even in places like Toronto, Canada, like the whole cultural impact of 9/11 did not affect it severely as much as Mr. Enter may possibly think. So there's no purpose to bring up 9/11 or to talk about 9/11 when discussing about Turning Red. And that's why it's been called out by the entire internet as the worst take on Turning Red that you could ever find on the internet, and why people right now are actually making a whole bunch of memes based on like Mei Lee and 9/11. Like, there are some that I've seen on Twitter that they're actually pretty funny. Like, one example is actually a clip taken from the teaser trailer where you see Mei Lee running to her home, and there's that slow motion jump that she would do where she jumps over James Wan's character, and you see like she's jumping towards the World Trade Center. Or there's actually another one that's also really funny, and like you see May, she's crying, and you hear audio from Psychic Pebbles from one of the Oni Plays audio clips where he's just like turn on the TV, they hit the Pentagon, they hit the fucking Pentagon. It's absolutely hilarious. Like, if there is one positive thing that did come out from all this, is just the memes of like connecting Turning Red with 9/11. Like, somehow the 9/11 jokes have been revived, all because of Mr. Enter. Oh boy. But all jokes aside, though, Mr. Enter did actually respond to the whole situation. Like, he was actually aware of what had all happened. And I can imagine that, like, it is I can imagine for Mr. Enter, it was quite painful to watch, because honestly, I know personally what it's like to be like the clown of the day for the entirety of Twitter and on social media in general. It really is not fun, especially when you would be made fun of and people that you look up to, like, now it seems like they hate you and spite you because of that stupid thing. Like, I've been there once. Like, someone did share like a clip from my Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs review, and like it was heavily panned across the entire across Twitter, and especially with the animation community. And it was not a fun experience to go through, which is why to this day I do everything I can in order to go and improve myself from my shortcomings, that I do all the effort that I can to improve myself, to make myself better than how I was when I used to rant about Sony animation all the time, and to go and like set my biases aside in order to improve my reviews. And hopefully with the recent Sony animation reviews that I've done, whether they be for Vivo or Mitchell's, or even not too long ago with the Hotel Transylvania Transformation Mania review, that I have proven that I have evolved and that I'm no longer that cringy reviewer that I was before. So I can understand with Mr. Enter that it's not fun to go through, and hopefully maybe with this, like, it could be something for him to be like a learning curve for him to learn to go and improve himself and to be back to that Mr. Enter that people actually enjoyed. Sadly, that is not the case though, because he did respond with a Twitter thread, and again, this is where things go from this is where things actually go from ridiculously comical to tragically frightening, because he did put out this massive thread on Twitter, and this is something that it just makes things so much worse. Like, it just made things so much terrible for him, and it really made Mr. Enter become like the bad guy. I know some people are making, like, a lot of people are mentioning like other controversial people such as Misanthropony and Lily Orchard. Well, this is something like this thread alone has already put Mr. Enter equally towards those people, or makes him even worse than them, because take a listen. And by the way, I will put out my commentary like after some of these tweets, because there's so much to unpack here. So let's go with the first one. Good to know that after a career of insulting people, getting things blatantly untrue, going into anti-mask rants, this is your moral line. This is the moment where you said too far when I thought that a mediocre movie didn't properly represent its stated year. Okay, well, right over here already you got some massive problems. Like, already there are so much issues. Like, number one, the fact that it is a blatant lie when he stated that apparently people gave him a pass when he was insulting people, spreading misinformation, and going on anti-mask rants. Okay, at that point, nobody gave you a pass on that, dude. Like, just because you didn't get fully canceled, that doesn't mean that people were okay with the things that you have done. You were massively called out when you were insulting animators and people working in the industry and pretty much developing hate campaigns against them. Like, when you spreaded misinformation and stated false facts, like, you were called out against that, especially like in your Nicorama review, where you said things that were completely untrue for the purpose of talking down against the cartoon that you were talking about. And my God, the freaking anti-mask rants. Like, you were going absolutely insane with those things. I am shocked that anybody could think that you can be taken seriously after those. Like you got you got severely called out for those things. Like, isn't that one of the major reasons why you had to go and delete your DeviantArt account and even delete your old Twitter account? Like, I know this one is not your first, dude. And number 3, and probably the biggest thing, considering that this is supposed to be the one that's supposed to start this entire thread, the fact that, like, the whole point that you're trying to make, like, honestly, it's just making you look, it's just making you look so much worse here. The fact that you're saying that, like, oh, well, like, you're the problem here because you're saying that my comment on turning red is too far when I used to be an asshole previously with my things like insulting people, getting things blatantly untrue, and going into an anti-mask rant. That seems to be the point that you want to try to go and make. That apparently that the people criticizing you are the problem because apparently this is the thing that they won't let you get away with when in previous times you've been a major douchebag. I don't think the fact that you bring up the other times when you were a dick, it's not helping out your case. You're just making things so much worse and really emphasizing the fact that you are a horrible person and that you have never grown from all that. The fact that you still remain as the same douchebag that would still go and attack animators just for doing their jobs and try to develop hate campaigns so that your fans can go and attack them on social media and send death threats and all that kind of stuff. Like, already that is a major problem, the fact that you're starting with this. But this is just the start of it. There's still so much more that we need to go through. Like, let's move on now. Keep fighting the good fight. Even if you have to take things out of context, you look phenomenal doing so. And I'm sure Disney knows that they've got loyal customers that will ignore them working in despotic governments that they sell your values back to you. Okay, I freaking hate this mentality. My God. Like, I still can't believe that people still think that way. And the way that Mr. Enter is using it right here, I just need to say it. Like, fuck you, John. Like, what? Like, seriously, fuck you for even trying to say this. Like, it's so stupid that there are some people out there that have this mentality that if you're going to be against Disney, you must be against everything against Disney. You're not allowed to like anything that Disney has done. You're not allowed to love any of the products that they have made. You're not allowed to buy anything from them. You're not allowed, like, if you enjoy at least one of their movies, you're not allowed to criticize them whatsoever. Like, if you enjoy, like, apparently some people think if you like Turning Red and Encanto, then you're not in a position to criticize Disney for how they've been handling the Don't Say Gay bill controversy. Like, that has actually happened to me, where I, like, you know me, I have openly called out Disney for the terrible ways that they have been handling the Don't Say Gay bill controversy, and I've actually had a few people, like, try to say, like, aren't you still a Disney shrill? Didn't you give Turning Red and Encanto a positive review? Like, honestly, like, eat a freaking bag of dicks if you have that simple-minded mentality. And especially with Mr. Enter, the way that he's framing it here, he's pretty much saying that, oh, well, if you don't agree with me, well, that makes you a Disney shrill. That makes you a Disney slave, that you rather defend a Disney product than defend me. Like, seriously, fuck you, John. All right, let's go and move on to the other comments in this thread here. Let's see. In a way, it's really satisfying to piss off Twitter. Why? Because the shits I had to deal with on actual hate forums are less toxic and pathetic than the community here. Good luck with that Elon Musk buyout. I hear you guys loved him too when he stood for the right things. Remember when you guys loved J.K. Rowling for queer baiting? Only ever saying that her characters were LGBT after the fact? I could go on and on. The names change, but the stories are always the same. It gets fucking old, and people in general are getting tired of your existence. Okay, wow, what a coincidence that we're bringing back J.K. Rowling in this, but I just gotta ask, what the fridge does J.K. Rowling have to do with anything that you're talking about here? I mean, then again, we could say that it is Mr. Enter. This is the same guy who just randomly brings in 9/11 when he talks about Turning Red for no reason whatsoever. And it's the same thing here. Like, what point are you even trying to make with the whole J.K. Rowling thing? It makes no sense to this entire argument that you're even talking about. And do you really think that bringing her up is going to make you better? Like, no, it just makes no sense here. Anyways, let's move on. I pity those of you who live your life on this cesspool of a platform. It's dying, and it's been for a long time. The brief boost of relevance it got due to the pandemic is over, and those fake Twitter points you've been hunting for will vanish like any shits I have left to give. Say what you want about my videos, I literally don't care. I lost too much over the past couple of years due to real problems to give shit about, and petty internet teehees. Whatever happened, about petty internet teehees. Whatever happens today, I'm still going to make content, and I'm still going to live my best. Holy crap, dude. Like, the amount of cope in here, this is desperate. Like, seriously, if you don't, like, he keeps on saying that he doesn't care, that he doesn't give a shit whatsoever, and yet all I see is nothing but cope and cope and cope and cope. Like, really, he's at a, like, let me ask you this, John. If you don't care about what's been happening on Twitter, then why are you making this long thread in the first place? Like, why even make a thread this long if you state that you don't care? Like, really, what you're saying here, it really feels like you're saying, I don't care, I don't give a shit. Who cares about Twitter? It's dying anyways. No one gives a crap. You're all gonna forget about it. I don't care about it. I pity those who care about it, because I have a life. I have actual crap. I have actual things to care about that actually do matter. Unlike things that happen here on Twitter. Twitter is stupid. I don't freaking care. I don't care at all. You guys are meaningless. You guys are stupid for still being on Twitter. You know, like, this is nothing but just desperate freaking cope, man. And I'm gonna say this right now. You care. You absolutely do care, man. Oh, boy. Let's see, what else do we have here? Yeah, okay, let's continue now. I turned off the comments on that video, but maybe I shouldn't have. If being part of a Twitter brigade is the only thing that can brighten a sad, miserable life, for a brief bit of sadistic joy, who am I to take that from you? Could the point be worded better? Does it matter? You turned off the comments, and sadly, yes, this is actually true. Let me go and quickly look this up, actually. I should have had this prepared a little bit, but yes, it is actually true that Mr. Enter did end up taking down the... He did take down the comment section of his review. Let me just go and try to find that. Yes, this infamous review.
Still haven't started your Shopify store?
Over here. And let me just show you this, just to go and properly frame this for you. So let me just go and quickly shrink that. Hold on a sec. Just give me some time. I'm using I'm using Google Chrome for this. I want to show you with my account so that I could show with the amount of dislikes that it actually gotten. So Turning Red is a mixed bag by the mysterious Mr. Enter. And as you can see, well, with the dislikes, 2.1 likes towards compared to 8.7 thousand dislikes. And yes, as you can see here, he did end up turning off the comments, which, a pretty bad move right there, man. Like, again, this show, like, this is not a good way to go and respond to criticism, because really, like, the fact that you got to take away, like, in a way, you are taking away people's freedom of speech, when turning off the comments immediately. And the fact that you're turning them off to try to silence your critics, it really is a bad look for you. I'm even surprised you're even showing, like, the likes and dislikes on this whole thing. I'm surprised you didn't even shut this one down either. Because the thing is that, like, if you claim to not even care, then you wouldn't have cared enough to go and turn off the comment section. So that's something I just want to go and immediately show. Anyways, where are we in all this? Yeah. If it wasn't for that, we'd be making this about the diversity talk. The fact that we're not talking about that is how I know most of these people didn't watch the full video. Justifying yourself to people who won't listen is pointless. Well, that's the thing. People have actually seen the review, John, and that's why they're calling you out. And even without the whole aspect of like 9/11, it is still a terrible review because your takes about it don't make sense and they are absolutely weak. Because your overall comments on the Turning Red review, like, yeah, there are some things that you did like about it, but your criticisms against it, they are weak and they are pointless because you're literally saying that the cartoons you grew up with are not as good as Turning Red. That's the whole point you're trying to make, and that's why that review has been known to be infamously weak. Like, even, like, we wouldn't, yeah, like, maybe we would talk about the diversity talk if we're not talking about the 9/11 aspect of it, but you would still get the same amount of backlash regardless because it is still a terrible take. Then let's move on because there is still more, believe it or not. He says, and hey, maybe when I review Mulan 2020, She-Ra, High Guardian Spice, and Masters of the Universe, I'll hit trending again. I mean, if you guys really want me to, if you guys really want me to make me successful, hint for upcoming projects, by the way, I'm not going to shut up despite my own good. Oh boy, yeah, that's also I'm gonna get more into that later. There's a lot to discuss. Rule of thumb. If you piss Twitter off, you're probably doing something good. Once again, after a career of moral faux pas and stupidity, know this is the one where they've finally gone no. In the eternal words of Rick Sanchez, your boos mean nothing. I know what makes you cheer. Okay, so you're basically repeating the same point that you have made in the first tweet that you have done. And may I say, no, it's still bullcrap because people have still called you out on all those other things. It's just this one, you got a lot more no's than usual. And also, may I say, you're quoting Rick Sanchez? You're literally quoting Rick from Rick and Morty? If you're at the point that you're unironically doing that, then you know that people, like, did you actually do that on purpose? Because, like, you know, this whole thing is just, like, are you doing that because, is this whole thing satire, by the way? Like, this entire thread, is it just satire of making fun of how people view you or something like that? Because no one on this earth will ever take you seriously if you're gonna unironically be quoting Rick from Rick and Morty. You might as well follow that up with a quote from the Joker. You might as well follow that up by saying, we live in a society. Like, seriously, man, that you're not helping yourself with that thing. And there are a few more that he did put out. Take a deep breath and practice self-care. I love you all and hope that we can build a better world together, devoid of hatred, fear, and anger of yesteryear. I'm going to listen to some country music and work on my next video. Have a lovely day and God bless. From John. And also an extra quote from Sarah saying, you want Mr. Enter trending? Get this fucking trending. Oh yeah, John, end this all off on a positive note. After that entire rant that is literally filled with hatred, fear, and anger, you decide to go and end this off with peace and love, everyone. Practice self-care. Take a deep breath. Are you freaking kidding me, dude? Like, this is how you're gonna end off, like, going on a major hate-filled rant where you're acting desperately entitled and desperately showing off your coping mechanisms? You're gonna end up with a little peace and love letter? That's not how it works, dude. That is not how it freaking works. And overall, with all this, like, immediately, like, just reading through all that, that's where the laughs of the whole situation, like, it is all gone. That's at the, like, right now, it is at the point where it is seriously concerning because what we are seeing right now with Mr. Enter, he's becoming so self-destructive. Like, right now, like, he's putting all, like, he decided to go and not just double, but full on triple down on not just this whole controversy with Turning Red, but on everything that he has done in the past. Like, he has reverted back to attacking animators for doing their job and go so so much worse with this. And even in recent years, we've kind of seen a transition where Mr. Enter has become more hate-filled and more spite-filled and more selfishly entitled, where the only person that he truly does care about is him and him alone. Not his friends, not his fans, and certainly not his family, just himself. And that's it. Or at least that's the way that he's presenting himself on social media. Some people could argue about how he is otherwise, but how he's showing himself on social media, like with this thread alone, he is proving that he is just a self-entitled asshole, and that's it. And slowly but surely, we have seen those things that just makes him worse and worse and worse. Even the things that he has pointed out, that it feels like right now he seems to take pride in the things that made the internet so upset, that he seems happy with the fact that he attacked animators. He seems happy with the fact that he spread in misinformation, that he doesn't know how to do proper research on the things that he would go and talk about, and especially with the absolute rants that he would do in regards to actual serious issues. Like, especially with his comments on, saying that healthcare is not a human right, and all his anti-mask rants, it shows that he has a serious mental problem, to the point that he would go full-on QAnon. And it makes me worried that he's going down this hate-filled path to the point that he's just going to become like a full-on and like a bland anti-woke channel. He's going to be nothing more but a quartering wannabe, where he's just going to go and continuously rant about things that are considered woke. And especially even with some of the subjects that he's going to talk about in the future, stuff like Mulan 2020 or She-Ra and High Guardian Spice and Masters of the Universe, he's going to go towards targets that have already been slandered so much by anti-woke groups. Mulan 2020, like, I can understand, like, why that would be a subject for, like, a review of why this movie is bad, but, like, the rest of it, you know, he's going to be going on like these typical anti-SJW rants. He has already been there, where in many of his recent reviews, you see him exaggerating social issues. Like, he literally, like, there's one video where he literally tried to say that we're in the end of the world, that society has been destroyed and ruined, all because of an Arthur cartoon that promotes wearing masks. Not to mention that he actually did have a history of even attacking his own fans. Like, there was one fan on his Discord that he threatened violence against because they were just promoting people to go and wear a mask during the pandemic. And this is not even to mention the constant misogynistic rants that he would go towards to go and attack feminism. That more frequently, we have been seeing Mr. Enter try to go and attack feminism and frame them as a problem. Like, he's slowly but surely growing into an incel and seem to have grown this hatred for women. Like, that's what Mr. Enter is at right now. He's becoming more and more of an incel, and that's what I'm worried to see, is Mr. Enter, that with the reviews that he has coming soon, that he's gonna go, he's gonna become more and more and more of a hate-filled anti-SJW, constantly ranting about things being woke. Like, he'll be at the point where he's going to review things and determine if they are woke or not. Like, he'll say, like, you know what, this cartoon sucks, but one good thing about it is that at least it's not woke, so it is kind of watchable in that sense. Like, he'll be resorted to that kind of low life where he's going to base everything on, is it woke? And that's the direction that, like, that nobody wants to see Mr. Enter goes. Especially with the fact that, like, on top of that, like, he's just becoming a flat-out bully in general. There's even at one point where he even attacked he even attacked his former editor for, like, literally no reason. Like, there's one recent tweet that he has done where, like, the Crimson Mayhem, his former editor, someone who used to be very devoted to Mr. Enter and used to be very supportive of Mr. Enter, to the point where he would actually be editing his own videos. Like, he made a little tweet, like, just to make fun of the whole situation. Like, Mr. Enter has revived 9/11 jokes more faster than the majority of YouTube poops who've tried. And the response Mr. Enter made is, I revived 9/11 jokes faster than you could finish editing a review too. Like, seriously, what's the point of all this? Like, that is bullying. That is a flat out attack. and very unnecessary whatsoever. And that's unfortunately the point where Mr. Enter has ultimately become. He is so filled with spite and hatred that he just has become a full-on bully where all he can ever talk about is just hate. And I mean, it doesn't help either that he ended off killed off his show in which he would talk about positive cartoons and things that he did enjoy. And I think overall with this, what we are seeing right over here is that Mr. Enter, I can unironically say, has a serious mental problem. He is, like, I know this is a term that's often been thrown a lot on social media and on the internet, but I just gotta say that Mr. Enter he is clinically ill. He has a serious mental illness that he has to deal with. And the way that he's trying to cope with it right now is extremely unhealthy. And like I said before, is extremely self-destructive. Even on his thread that he made before, he is actually self-aware of the fact that what he is doing is not good for him. He even said, I'm not going to shut up ever, despite my own good. He is aware that what he is doing right now is destroying him. And yet he's not going to stop doing so because he's filled with anger. He is filled with hate. And I am aware that with Mr. Enter, he has gone through a lot of very troublesome times. He's had some seriously bad things that I can't help but feel sorry for the guy. He had COVID this year, and I heard apparently his mother has actually recently passed away, which is not a fun experience to go through whatsoever. And I don't know what has ultimately happened, but he has become a highly toxic individual, which is why he's going on these misogynistic rants against that he's going on these misogynistic rants on feminism. And already it should the fact that he would say that healthcare is not a human right and that he's heavily against wearing masks and stuff like that, that should already be a sign that he has some kind of mental problem going on with him. No mentally stable human being would ever say those things. And yet Mr. Enter is at a point where he would just go and become worse and worse and worse. And right now, he's at the point where he doesn't seem to comprehend. He doesn't know how to handle the serious situations that are going on with his life. He doesn't know how to handle being in a pandemic. He doesn't know how to handle the real life situations like having his mother pass away, and he doesn't know how to handle being the center of major controversy on the internet. And right now, all he's doing is just attack, making himself look superior to others, but all he's doing is just abandoning people. And even on his YouTube channel, he's been losing thousands of subscribers because of this entire controversy. And that's why Mr. Enter should seriously seek medical help. Honestly, it's at the point right now that he should stop making videos. I am ready to go and have him delete his entire channel if it needs to be that way. But the thing is, right now, what Mr. Enter should do is stop making videos altogether and try to seek medical attention. Try to go and find a therapist, find a find a psychiatrist, try to get some medicine. And even if Mr. Enter would be taking medication, he's got to really up the dosage right now. What he's going through is a serious mental illness. And right now, the cope that he's trying to do to handle what he is going through, it is not helping. It is really making things so much worse. And I fear for the path that Mr. Enter is going through in all this. Honestly, it's at the point where, yeah, we can all go and make fun of the stupid takes that he has had, the fact that he has never been improved, that he has never improved from how he was in the past, and has gone on to such delusional anti-woke and anti-masked rants that only a psychopath would only go and say. But he really does need help. He needs to stop making videos. He needs to stop doing what he's doing right now and actually find some actual help, even if it means going to anger management or whatsoever. Yeah, I know some could argue that, well, technically this is his job, but he needs to stop altogether. He needs to have a moment to actually put his mental health first. Because this is not like what you see here with the whole threads and everything that he's been saying in his recent videos. These are not the rants of a healthy human being. This is someone who is he is pleading for help. He is like, yeah, he's calling out for attention, but he doesn't know how to handle the situation right now. And honestly, that's all I could really say about this whole situation. The dude needs medical attention. He needs to stop making videos and put himself first, where he can actually go and find proper therapy, get the right medication in order for him to be a more positive person, for the anti-woke rants to end, for the anti-masks rant to go and end, and be the Mr. Enter. There is a way for Mr. Enter to be beloved again, to be accepted back to the cartoon community. There are ways. We have seen how Mr. Enter can actually be a good cartoon reviewer. But the Mr. Enter that we do have now is garbage. He is purely toxic and needs to be removed on YouTube immediately. Someone who should not even be making a profit off of what he is doing right now. He needs to get away from it all, get away from his videos and get away from his fans, especially because right now they are enablers to his toxic behavior. And like right now, the people trying to defend him, my God, like they're trying hard, but they're not doing well. I even had one idiot on Facebook try to tell me like his defense is just, well, that's just what makes Mr. Enter Mr. Enter. Yeah, but that's what makes Mr. Enter a terrible reviewer and a horrible person that needs serious help. That's the whole, and honestly, I don't know if John would ever go and listen to this, but I just want to say, John, I know what you're going through right now with the whole turning red controversy is not fun, but I just got to say this right now. You got to stop. You got to stop. And you need to seek help. You need to put yourself first, and you need to accept right now that you have a problem. Your rants on healthcare, on feminism, on masks, and everything like that, it's not healthy. And no mentally stable human being would have that mindset in the beginning. You are sick. You need help. All right. Honestly, I don't want to put you down. I don't want to frame you as the enemy. I want to go and highlight that you need help. You need to have you need proper attention to go and heal you from whatever pain that you have inside. I know that you are hurting inside, regardless of what the situation may be, whether it be from your mother, whether it be what other situations that has happened in your life, whatever it be, like the reputation that you have on the internet. I know that you're hurting. Try to go and prioritize more than anything else to heal your hurt, even if it means stop making videos for months, years even. Like, try to put yourself first and try to go and heal yourself. John, you have a problem, and we're not here to scold you. We want you to heal yourself from the hurt that you have. Instead of sharing your hurt with everyone else, go and heal that hurt. All right. And that is my whole comment on the Mr. Enter situation. And I would like to go and pass on to you guys. How do you feel about the whole Mr. Enter controversy? Let me know what you all think on all this. Okay. Let's see, we're right over here. This is just BS. Wow, the movie is about a girl transforming into a giant panda, not about 9/11. This whole situation is just dangerous and shows how much Mr. Enter is becoming a monster and needs serious help. Oh yeah, fun fact, you know what has even more of a reference to 9/11? Klonoa, Empire of Dreams, North America release date. Don't believe me? Look it up. Just sad that even Klonoa has more of a notable part to 9/11 than Mr. Enter is trying to make with his Turning Red review. Just tragic. This is nothing but madness and dumb. This shows that people like Lily Orchard, Misanthropony, and of course Mr. Enter are just not only bad critics, but just horrible people. Not only his takes are bad, but it shows that they are toxic and that they show themselves online. I'm really that people like you, AniMat, are calling them out, because I remember the time when people say that MatPat, Valsky Bum, and Quinta Reviews are bad YouTubers, and now people are switching that towards Lily, Enter, and Map. Well, I don't think I don't know if Lily Orchard ever had a moment where she was viewed as a good reviewer, but I know Misanthropony and Mr. Enter have always been bad reviewers. And yeah, they do need, and they do need to be called out, but especially in Mr. Enter case, like the fact that he's going in this anti-woke route and this anti-mask route, like most people with that mindset, he's just mentally sick. He just needs some serious help in order to heal whatever like pain that he has on the inside. That's really the case. We actually do have a comment here from Crimson Mayhem himself. Crimson, I'm sorry if this really did. I'm sorry if this really put you down. I know that like this might be tough for you to watch, but hopefully you did enjoy the rest of the show. But anyways, he stated here, I am literally sad and depressed how low this has become. I have a few words to describe my extreme disappointment. I swear he was a smart guy at one point. As his former editor, I am honestly on the verge of tears and felt that I ultimately failed him. I wanted to save him from this turmoil. I hate it. I am terribly sorry. Okay, Chrism, I can already say right now that is a bad take because honestly, this is not your fault. Do not blame yourself for this. This is not because, like, what Mr. Enter has become, this is not because of you. We all know that what you have done great work for Mr. Enter. You've done everything you can in order to make not just your work, but his work to be great as well. You've done everything possible that you can. And I know you get that feeling that what you have done may not necessarily be enough, but that is not your fault. You've done whatever you can, and in your mission of what you tried to do, it is already successful as is. It's just that the situation that you have faced is much worse than anyone could have ever expected. So I just want to say this, Crimson, this is not your fault whatsoever. I know you're a good dude, and I do believe you when you say that he was a smart guy before he went on his whole anti-woke and anti-mask brigade, that he was actually intelligent at one point. I do believe you that. And I'm sure that that smart Mr. Enter of him is still inside. There's just so much hate and pain that is with him that needs to be get rid of in order to find that. Let's see now. This solidifies why Mr. Enter is one of the worst animation reviewers on YouTube. Not the worst, since no one is ever going to top Misanthropony, but who goes into a Pixar film thinking, oh boy, I hope they talk about 9/11? Plus, his response can basically be boiled down to, yeah, I'm an unlikable dick, what are you going to do about it? And in the eternal words of Rick Sanchez, your parents are a bag of dicks. Wait, that's the best Rick quote I can find? Yeah, what a load of total scum block. Yeah, there is a reason why it's not an intelligent thing to go and quote Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. You just don't do that. Especially if you want to be in a position that you want to make yourself look better than the people who criticize you. It ain't gonna freaking work, man. Again, you might as well quote the Joker and say we live in a society. Okay, I was 5 when 9/11 happened and 6 when this movie takes place, May of 2002. I have no memory of 9/11. Enter is yours and my older sister's age. Was he really thinking about 9/11 when he was a 9-year-old boy? Yeah, maybe his parents were freaking out and it probably affected him, but it wouldn't affect him 24/7. I honestly want to know what the hell Enter wants in modern animation. Other than aesthetic, what does he want this story to be? I've read his book. He can't write. Who knows, man? Like, really, who knows? Maybe the way that he grew up with is just flat out terrible. And his his childhood is the kind that nobody would like to have. And that kind of perspective can really warp his modern viewpoints on animation. So there is that. Let's see now. Here's my response to Enter's take. You fool! But in all seriousness, his take on Turning Red is very tasteless, and it's definitely the worst take he's given to a movie. His response to the whole situation is so weak and terrible that that guy has no heart and instead uses cope to say that he doesn't give a shit to anything that people like. Seriously, Mr. Enter, you're nothing but an entitled asshole. You really need some aid. Please go and get some serious help. I mean, sad to say, he's right. Let's see now. I remember watching Turning Red, and not once did I ever think that the movie needed any kind of reference to 9/11. The fact that Mr. Enter is bringing up that when talking about the movie when where the main character turns into a giant fluffy red panda is honestly scary. Honestly, does anyone realize that this guy is mad at Turning Red for not mentioning 9/11, but seems not to bring up Monsters Inc., which did not even mention 9/11, even though it was released less than 2 months after the event happened? You never know, man. And you know what? I'm going to read one more comment before we cap this off. Like, we're already going so long. Or 2 more comments, actually. Two more. This was one of the stupidest takes I've heard from Mr. Enter. Bringing 9/11 into this way was really dumb, as Turning Red is about going through puberty and family traumatization. Yes, just because it took place in 2002 doesn't mean it has to add 9/11 to this. He and Misanthropony has become worse of the worst in not proving their criticisms, and they're only hurting themselves even more. I say his takes is more ludicrous than Doug Walker's takes, where even Doug Walker doesn't go this far. He needs help. Yeah, this is one of the rare occurrences where Doug Walker and the nostalgia critic in general is already looking so much better than Mr. Enter. Even Doug Walker's silence on the whole change the channel controversy is way better than how Mr. Enter is handling his controversy right now. Like, at this point, Mr. Enter is already on a mission to try to collect all the L's that he can. This is so far the worst take I've ever heard on Turning Red so far, and it's none other than Jonathan Enter. He's really making himself look worse than ever, and he's making it than he's ever done in any movie or show that he has reviewed. Anyways, my May pop figure just arrived in the mail just now, so happy today. Nice. All right, one more before we go now. Oh, look, Mr. Enter said something controversial. In other news, water is wet. Okay, in all seriousness, this is one of the many reasons why I had to unsubscribe from Mr. Enter's channel. It's one thing if a popular movie just wasn't for you. Okay, he didn't go as far as to verbally attack the filmmaker or the people who liked the Turning Red film this time, but this type of criticism tells us nothing. As somebody who lived on a military base when 9/11 happened, my family found a way to move on before 2002. And sad to say, I think, yeah, he didn't do that on the video, but he certainly did attack the fans on, he certainly did attack everybody with this entire thread. So even at that, this really shows that Mr. Enter has reverted back to his worst behavior, that he has not improved himself whatsoever. And again, to cap all this off, he needs help.